Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. Very warm welcome to this webinar, which is the second in a series, actually, where we're exploring how the engineering biology mission hubs are harnessing engineering biology to address real-world challenges. So my name's Tom Pearson. I'm a senior portfolio manager for engineering biology at BBSRC. And in a few moments, I'll be handing over to the Microbial Food Hub team to talk about the really exciting work taking place across their mission hub. But just before I hand over to the team, I want to spend a couple of minutes setting the scene in terms of why we consider engineering biology to be so important at UKRI, and also what we're hoping to achieve through these specific mission hub investments. Small bit of housekeeping to start with. So as this is a webinar, you'll note that your microphone is muted and your camera's turned off. We've also disabled the chat function just to ensure that all your questions are captured in the correct place. On questions, you're very much encouraged to submit these to the Hub team throughout the webinar, and you can do that through the Q&A function. And then all the questions submitted will be collated, and I'll pose those to the panel at the end of the webinar. And finally, we are recording today, and we plan to make the recording available on UKRI's YouTube channel sometime over the next few weeks. So please do keep an eye out for that. Alrighty, so engineering biology is one of our strategic priority areas for investment at UKRI. And the reason behind this is because we strongly believe that engineering biology has the potential to deliver huge benefits for the UK in terms of addressing major societal challenges, driving economic growth, as well as increasing national security, resilience and preparedness. As an emerging technology, engineering biology has the potential to transform a broad range of diverse sectors, spanning agriculture and food systems, manufacturing and clean growth, in environmental monitoring and remediation, and also in biomedicine and in improving human health. And it's because of this broad range of applications that engineering biology is a technology that's really recognised globally to be of major importance, with some predicting that it could contribute up to $4 trillion to the global economy over the next 10 years or so. So, as part of our strategy to support the UK in realising engineering biology potential, last year we invested over £100 million in 6 engineering biology mission hubs and in 22 engineering biology mission awards. These investments were made through UKRI's National Engineering Biology Programme, with co-funding support from the wider Technology Missions Fund programme, which has provided a substantial amount of investment to grow UK capabilities in critical technologies. The Mission Hubs and Awards build on the UK's world-class engineering biology capabilities to really drive engineering biology to that next level of technology maturity, essentially unlocking its potential across a broad range of application areas and ultimately delivering tangible impacts that make a real difference to how this technology benefits UK society. So now I'm very pleased to introduce one of the Mission Hub project leads, Dr. Rodrigo Ledesma Amaro from Imperial College London, who, along with his colleagues, is going to explain how the Microbial Food Hub is harnessing engineering biology to address challenges in the food system. So thank you very much, and over to Rodrigo.
Thank you very much, Tom, and everyone for joining. I'm going to now share my screen. And I'm Rodrigo Ledesma. I'm the director of the hub, and I'm going to introduce you to the Microbial Food Hub, and then I will hand over to my team to talk about research, impact, and engagement. So let me start by telling you what are the challenges in our food system and why we need solutions. So our food system is far from perfect, and you might be aware of this in your daily life. One of the main challenges is sustainability. 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions of our planet come from our food system. And there are different contributors to that, being meat, some of the higher producer of CO2, for example. And this is similar in the UK, where 11% of the greenhouse emissions come from our food production systems. But it's not only about emissions, it's also about land use. We use in the UK 60% of the land is used for agriculture, the habitable land, It's mostly used for growing crops, and out of those crops, around 80% of them are used for animal feed and not for human food. Only 20% of that is used for human food. So actually, the conversion of crop to protein in our diet is pretty low as it is at the moment. And crops require a vast amount of land, and as you see in the graph, animals require even more amount of land because they need crops to feed the animals as well. But on top of that, 30% of the food we produce is just wasted, and we can see this in our households in daily basis, but also in restaurant and other production factories as well. On top of sustainability, another challenge is nutrition and the healthiness of our food, and we are transitioning toward diets that are not necessarily the best, that are rich in saturated fat, that are low in fiber, and those contribute to some heart diseases and also gut issues. And especially in the UK, we see an increase in the lack of micronutrients in our diets that can lead to deficiencies in iron, zinc, vitamin A, vitamin D, and calcium. In addition, if we want to keep doing the food in the way we are doing it now, that's not enough. That's not enough because the population is growing globally and it's going to reach 10 billion people in 250. So we need to feed more mouths, but also many of the developing countries are demanding more meat-like products as they developed. So the demand for meat-like products is also increasing. And that's linked to food security and some issues that we've experienced with COVID or even the Ukrainian war. Affordability is another major challenge, and there are 2.8 billion people in the planet that cannot afford a healthy diet, and it's estimated that this is around 20% of the people in the UK. So summarizing, sustainability, health and nutrition, the increasing demand and affordability are some of the challenges that require our attention, and we are focusing on with some of the alternatives on this hub. So what are the solutions to these challenges? There are many, and this is multidisciplinary solution. There is no one silver bullet for all of those. But one of them is called alternative proteins. And alternative proteins is a way to talk about sustainable and healthy foods that are made with plants, with animal cells, or with fermentation. So we're all familiar with plant-based foods, and we see them in the supermarket, like plant-based burgers or plant-based milks. They still lack some taste and nutritional properties that need to be addressed. In cultivated meat space, this is growing the cells from the animals without the animal, as you can see in the scheme on the right. And that, of course, can create products that look like traditional meat that have the same nutrients. But the challenging is produce them as a cost-effective manner. The third type of foods are the microbial food, and that's where the hub is focusing on. And this is also known as fermentation. And fermentation it's a technology that has been around for many years and use microorganisms to make these food products. And there are three types of fermentation that I will mention in a minute, but this fermentation has been around for millennia, and humans started to consume fermented product before even developing agriculture. And that's supposed to have helped the development of the brain and humanity in general. More recently, in the 80s and 90s, we developed the other two types of fermentation, biomass and precision fermentation. Now we'll introduce to those just now. But on top of production of foods by fermentation, traditional and then the new type of fermentation, we also can use fermentation to produce other products, more generally with engineering biology. And similar processes can make chemicals, materials, medicines, fuels, and of course, foods. So let me introduce you to the three types of fermentation, because are the three types of processes we are focusing on in the hub, and you will hear more about them with Dimitris in a second. So traditional fermentation is the one we are all familiar with: bread, beer, wine, kimchi, miso, etc. And that's account already for 1/3 of our diet. So we all eating a lot of microbial foods already, and they are associated to be healthy. They can preserve food better, increase the safety of product. They contribute to flavor, texture, nutrients, and gut health. Biomass fermentation is when we grow the microorganisms in a fermenter, and then the microbial cells and biomass is what becomes the food. And we are all familiar with corn in the UK in particular as a product that uses fermentation to make meat-like products. So those are an example of biomass fermentation, and is taking advantage of the nutritional quality of microorganisms that are rich in proteins, essential amino acids, vitamins, etc. And the final type of fermentation is precision fermentation, where we use what we cell factories, and it's usually a microorganisms that has been selected or engineered to produce a specific ingredient. So we are no longer interested in the microbial biomass, but what the microbe is producing at the end of the fermentation. And that's usually a product, an ingredient that can be used as a sustainable ingredient, such as proteins from dairy, egg, or meat, or can be a vitamin, an antioxidant, colorant, flavors, aromas, fibers, etc. And the advantage of these microbial foods, and the reason why we're focusing on this, is because they are considered to be sustainable. They use less water and less land than traditional methods. They produce also less emissions. They consider nutritious because they have a good amino acid and nutritional profile, as I mentioned. They also contribute to security in food and resilience because they are independent of climate and seasons. You can control and produce them in the same way in any part in the world. They have short production cycles. They can duplicate really quickly, some of them even in 10 minutes. So they made the process scalable. If we have a higher demand of a specific type of food, we just need more bioreactor to manufacture it rather than having cycles of growing some crops or animals for years or months. There's still some challenges, and those include affordability, sustainability, nutritious aspect of the product, and the taste of these products. And some solutions include the scale-up manufacturing, regulatory issues and policy concerns, but also as a big driver of solutions is engineering biology, and that's the aspect that we are working on in this hub. And let me go to my final slide of this introduction, where I want to tell you very briefly why engineering biology can play a major role in developing new microbial foods. And that's because we can tackle different challenges I mentioned just before. One is the affordability. So we can make products that have higher yields. So therefore, the cheaper processes use cheap available feedstocks and rich in high value product as well. They can be more sustainable, as I mentioned. We can improve the nutrition with engineering biology, but expressing a specific essential amino acid or vitamins, etc. And we can also use metabolic engineering, synthetic biology, engineering biology to improve specific flavors, specific textures, and remove of flavors and things we don't want in the final product as well. And this is done through microbial strain engineering, biofoundries, bioprocesses, and combinations of all of those, as we will see in the next part of the slides with Dimitris.
Hello, everyone. Just to check that I'll move that. Can't seem to be able to move the. Right. Okay. I'll use the cursors. So hi everyone, my name is Dimitris Charalampopoulos and I'm from the University of Reading. I will aim to give you an overview of the research activities that we're doing at the Hub, provide you a bit of more insight on the research themes, as well as give you a couple of examples of current projects, and also highlight the diverse range of state-of-the-art facilities that we are using to support this type of research. So as Rodrigo said, the research themes are around three kind of core areas. One is traditional fermentation, which includes primarily fermented foods. The other one is biomass fermentation, precision fermentation. And underneath that, we have a range of sort of capabilities which highlight the of this type of research, which is scale-up facilities and processing, AI technologies, strain engineering, food science technology, as well as nutrition. Each of these sort of themes and capabilities are headed by one person. You can see in the slides the leads, which reflect sort of represent the various sort of universities that are involved in this hub, but also there's a number of industrial partners and stakeholders that are obviously involved in this research, and the aim is really to expand the capacity of and capability of the hub. So in terms of looking a little bit at sort of the application side of things, Rodrigo mentioned about traditional fermentation processes, and you can see here on the slides some examples. We're doing work with kefir, trying to develop a vegan type of kefir, traditional fermentations as well, like kombucha, where we look at process optimization using different sort of microbial strains, as well as trying to exploit the biopolymer, which is a byproduct of the kombucha fermentation process. In terms of biomass fermentation, there's a focus on yeast fermentations, yeast biomass, but also fungi, molds. There's a big area of research interest there. And in terms of precision fermentation, as Rodrigo said, there is a focus on a number of sort of products that can be produced by microbial cell factories, which includes proteins, but also oils, as well as antioxidants, flavors, colorants, and so on. You can see at the bottom of the slides the capabilities that I mentioned before. You can see the universities which have significant strength in processing and scale-up, AI technologies, strain engineering, food technology, and science and nutrition. And I will try to cover that in a little bit more detail at the end of the slides. I will now present a couple of projects that are currently ongoing. As I said, there's a number of projects going on at the same time, and we try to interact and bring in expertise from the different partners and external companies as well. The first project is one that focuses on the microbial production of casein. Casein is a complex sort of protein system, which includes a number of sort of proteins, alpha, beta casein, and kappa casein, and we all know its functionality in various types of food products, like dairy products in particular, for example, cheeses, yogurts. So properties like emulsification, foaming, gelation, and solubility of the complex casein micelles is really, really important. So what we're trying to do here is to try to produce casein proteins from microbes through engineering biology, and this engineering biology part is led by Imperial and Karen Polizzi, and also this industrial involvement here from Better Dairy. And the idea is to be able to express the casein proteins into microbial host systems. We're looking at Pichia pastoris, but there's also interest to assess fungal strains as well. So there is a lot of current work that is being done in order to develop strains that are able to express at high sort of yields this particular complex casein proteins. The second part of this project is to try and develop a process where, and you can see here a schematic, where we can produce this in a larger scale reactor, separate the protein out, and through membrane processing and other sort of physical processes. And the final aim is to introduce these proteins and develop food products like cheeses, ice cream, and you can see on the right some slides which shows the cheese vats and ice cream sort of making, where we can assess and develop prototype products and assess them. In terms of the upstream part, we are aiming to produce high cell density fermentations, where we can express the product as high cell concentration, reach high biomass and high casein production. We're going to be looking at both batch and fed batch sort of fermentation strategies, and the aim, as I said, is to increase the yield. And in terms of downstream process, which is a very important part of the actual sort of end-to-end process, to develop effective separation through centrifugation or cross-lobe membrane filtration in order to produce these caseins at a scale where we can do further experiments in order to assess the structure, texture, flavor, and sensory profile. And you can see very briefly here, you can see in the photo, the scanning electron microscopy, the sort of the structure of a cheese, and the idea is probably to look at hard cheeses, and then we can support the sort of the analytical assessment of the product in terms of volatile and non-volatile compounds, potentially do sensory trials, studies, and try and sort of link the sensory analysis with flavor sort of instrumental analysis, and carry out multi-factor analysis in order to understand how we can develop sort of products with very good taste. So very briefly, in terms of objectives, is to engineer the overexpression of casein cluster proteins, optimize the fermentation process to achieve higher numbers, develop scalable and cost-effective separation processes, evaluate the functional properties of the produced casein in terms of solubility, foaming capacity, emulsification capacity, gelling capacity, and then ultimately develop dairy products which have acceptable organoleptic properties, and develop a fundamental understanding of the role of the casein, of the recombinant casein, and how we can sort of tailor the functionalities. The second project is looking at incorporating yeast cell biomass into and developing extruded meat analog products, primarily high moisture extrusion products. Yeast biomass is very nutritious in general. It depends on the type of yeast strain that you're going to use, but generally they are very rich in proteins, free amino acids, ribonucleic acids, lipids, and minerals as well. And the idea of the project is to evaluate the use of yeast cells, as in whole cells, as an ingredient primarily for the production of hybrid products, which incorporate plant-based sort of materials like pea proteins, plus the yeast cells, and develop extruded products which have quite a meaty texture and a meaty flavor as well. Obviously, this is influenced by the yeast selection, the bioprocess, and the food processing and formulation. You can see on the diagram of the schematic that we're going to look at end-to-end, so from the production of the strain to sort of acquiring the cells, and then high moisture extrusion to develop meat-like structures and flavors, assess the storage, and also assess the cooking qualities of it, of the final product. This is just a photo of the extruder that we're going to be using, and this is the type of sort of extrudates that you get. This is an example of a soy protein concentrate extrudate, and the idea then is to sort of mix the plant-based with the yeast cells, which hopefully and according to prior studies will help provide a meat-like fiber structure and also a meat flavor because of the umami taste that yeast has. And the idea is to generate sort of products that we can assess in terms of quality. So the key objectives: select yeast strains in terms of protein levels, amino acid profile, develop the bioprocess for the high yeast biomass, very crucially understand the impact of extrusion and the yeast components on the blended yeast biomass plant proteins, high moisture extruded products in terms of meat-like fiber structure, meaty flavor, and potential masking of flavors and odors which many of the plant-based proteins have. And then evaluate the impact of cold storage and cooking, for example, stir frying, oven cooking, on lipid oxidation and organoleptic properties. A key challenge of this is to carry out this process at scale. Just to give you an example, in order to be able to do extrusion studies, for example, you probably need about 8 to 10 kilos of yeast biomass. So there is a challenge there, and we're going to be working with the partners that can provide such sort of capability. For example, Aberystwyth University and Kent as well, and obviously Imperial, to advance the research in this area. Just very briefly to highlight the sort of the facilities that the hub brings together. So obviously it brings expertise, multidisciplinary expertise in vast areas, including AI, strain engineering, food science, technology, bioprocess, and nutrition, and this is supported by a range of sort of facilities, scale-up facilities in terms of bioprocessing, and this comes from includes sort of high throughput macro-scale reactors up to 300-liter sort of reactors. A lot of them are located housed in Imperial, Reading, and Aberystwyth University, and you can see that includes both upstream sort of fermentation capabilities, but also downstream capabilities in terms of filtration and continuous certification and potentially chromatography that might be used. The second obviously area and facility very important and core in this hub is cell engineering, which Rodrigo mentioned, the AI-powered biofoundry, which automates pathway design, DNA assembly, and high throughput screening of various strains. And also the droplet microfluidic CRISP platform, which can provide sort of real-time multi-omics sort of information and machine learning, which can decrease the number of experimentation that we need. So in the diagram, you can see that the idea is that through these sort of facilities, we can build, test, learn, and design new constructs and sort of assess different pathways to engineer different strains that can produce a particular sort of metabolite or protein, or depending on the project. So these are world-class. We have world-class biofoundry access to Imperial facilities, as well as external partners as well. For example, from the University of Singapore. So in terms of food processing, I've already mentioned, I've already shown some of the capabilities. So the hub brings together capabilities, very strong capabilities on food technology, food science, ability to develop foods at GMP facilities, so food grade facilities that can be used then to produce foods that can be tested and even do human trials potentially. We have capabilities in terms of developing a range of products, from liquid products to semi-solid to solid, extruded products and dried products as well, and also to assess the shelf life and of the products, as well as through the development kitchens to evaluate the food sort of cooking practices. In terms of nutrition, again, very strong capabilities in this area, particularly in the topic of proteins. It's very, very important to assess the digestibility of proteins, and we can use the InfoGest static and dynamic digesters, which are available at Imperial College, where we can monitor sort of the digestion from mouth to ileum. There is also capabilities both in Imperial and Reading to conduct human trials potentially, and also and this is supported by a sort of very strong analytical capabilities, for example, whole body metabolic phenotyping and assessing sort of the impact on of different foods and food products that we have generated on nutrition and health potentially. And the final, I think, is also very, in terms of facilities, the consortium, the hub brings together very strong analytical capabilities, both in terms of microbial analysis and also food analysis as well. So instrumentation like LCMS and MR capabilities, and different types of chromatography and Raman, a high throughput Raman microscopy, which was recently sort of purchased at Imperial, and this can be a very useful tool to screen microbial strains. In addition to that, as I said, we all the sort of the food science, food nutrition and nutrition sort of institutes have very sort of safety and compliance sort of toolkit toolkits. And in addition to that, there is very strong expertise and capabilities on texture and rheology, which are very, very important in order to assess the texture of the food products in addition to flavor and aroma and sensory analysis. And I think my final slide is to highlight the facilities in terms of AI. I mentioned AI, and I think Rodrigo mentioned AI quite a bit during the presentation. So we will try to sort of utilize sort of AI technologies in order to accelerate the development pathway and try and link the different parts of the sort of conceptual processes and product designs end to end. So linking multi-omics, bioprocess data, sensory data, and LCA data in order to accelerate the development of this sort of area. And you can see on the right some more specifics on the areas where AI can be applied, and this is an area that we want to really push and try and sort of bring together all the different sciences in order to get very strong outputs, and particularly accelerated as translation and impact of this hub. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Polizzi from Imperial College, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact activities, specifically focusing on what we've done so far in the operation of the hub. Sorry, that went by faster than I thought. So basically, the first thing we set about doing was trying to make connections with other activities in this area, so that we're not duplicating effort, but rather working together where there are synergies. We're very fortunate at Imperial that we've also had funding from the Bezos Earth Fund to develop a sustainable protein center that focuses a bit more widely than microbial food, but there are some microbial food activities there, as well as being one of the sites of the National Alternative Protein Innovation Center in APIC. In addition, there's the Karma Hub, which is run by Marianne Ellis out of Bath, and that focuses on cultivated meat. But again, there's a lot of overlap with the kind of policy initiatives and things that we would like to pursue. So we have gotten together as 4 centers and signed a joint memorandum of understanding so that we'll have some coordinated activities. And one example of this is some joint training in IP for the early career researchers in the hub specifically, so that they can understand what IP is and how to protect it and exploit it well. So really the idea behind this is to really make sure that we're aligning our efforts together and not duplicating things. Within the hub itself, we have a series of impact units that we think are necessary to really get the most out of the research that's going on. So these range from commercialization and company creation through to education and policy. Also, given the area, there's a strong focus on sustainability and also gastronomy. So making sure that professionals have access to alternative proteins and can come up with recipes that exploit them to their fullest potential. Obviously, this type of area also is very public facing, and if we want consumers to adopt alternative proteins, we have to overcome the challenges that Rodrigo mentioned in the beginning, the taste and the cost, but we want to make sure that the consumer and the general public are with us along the way. So we're doing a lot of outreach on that end. And we also don't want to forget our colleagues in the Global South, where food security is a very big deal, and they can benefit very strongly from this technology. So in terms of what we've done so far across these impact units, we've had a start by looking at a white paper in microbial food. So what are the challenges and opportunities within microbial food? What would be the types of benefits that could be realized, and what policy recommendations are needed for this? So we very recently had a launch event co-organized by the IMSI Center at Imperial College with that, which was attended by a wide range of stakeholders, including academia, startups, media, and policymakers. We're fortunate also to be part of the Novel Food Expert Group, which is a recently funded network by Innovate UK, which is focusing on, again, novel foods more broadly, but alternative proteins being one of these. And it's looking at how we can make partnerships between different people in the community and support regulation, development, and regulatory science there. We've also built strong relationships with key policy bodies, including the FAO. So Rodrigo was an attendee at their most recent conference, and we contributed as authors to their fermentation reports. In terms of the consumers, the public, and gastronomy, we're really developing some targeted strategies around this to find out what is the current perception and what are the current barriers for consumer adoption, and how do we shift these so that alternative proteins become more acceptable. And part of this involves working with media and different media outlets. In addition, one of the more fun things that's happened is some of Rodrigo's research went to space. So a little miniature laboratory went into Earth's orbit to see whether yeast could be a potential food source in microgravity. And if you think about, the space station, but even beyond, maybe traveling to Mars, there will need to be sources of renewable food. I think this is a very extreme example of food security. And the question is whether or not yeast can be a solution for this. And we also have collaboration with chefs, the food service, and the hospitality industries to explore applications of alternative proteins there. On the commercialization fronts, we secured additional seed corn funding from the BBSRC to help accelerate the commercialization. Our proposed activities in this area include bringing on an entrepreneur in residence who would help us to identify what are the most fruitful avenues of research in terms of commercialization and startup, and helping to get that underway. We've also been developing a specialized startup curriculum, again, focusing around the early career researchers, the postdocs and PhDs who are associated with the center, so that they can understand what it's like to do a startup, what are the skills that are needed, and build some basic knowledge in that area. And we've also have plans for some small proof of concept grants, particularly focusing on the techno-economic analysis and the life cycle assessment of some of the projects, which we think have translation potential. And in addition, we've formed a network of VCs and industry to help us build our translational pipeline by drawing on the knowledge and expertise that they've got already. In terms of the low and middle income country outreach, right now what we're doing is cultivating partnerships with key global organizations. I mentioned FAO already, but also other philanthropic bodies to make sure that these innovations are accessible to everyone. So with that, I'll end, and I'll pass over to Julia, who's going to talk about engagement.
Hello everyone. Second. Hello everyone, thank you all for being here. I'm Julia Espeso from Imperial College, London. As Karen mentioned, the Hub has made quite some progress in the previous months, not just in research, but actually across public engagement, ecosystem development, education around microbial foods. But this is just the start. So for the next couple of minutes, I want to share with you an overview into our plans for the short-term future. When it comes to events, initiatives, and media, we've made it a key priority to drive public engagement, and we've partnered with the Science Museum, the Great Exhibition Road Festival, and the Royal Institution, and we're going to have different initiatives to make microbial foods more accessible and more relatable to the public. We've also obtained strong visibility across major media outlets, and we will continue to do so. And internally, we're planning on organizing a company creation and commercialization day, bringing together PhDs, postdocs, technicians from across the Hub to explore entrepreneurship and translation pipelines. With regards to ecosystem creation and governance, we want to support effective connections being made inside the hubs between the different stakeholders. And so we're launching a digital online ecosystem tailored by audience type, making engagement way more targeted and effective. And we've also established an early career research community to foster peer support, collaboration, career development with initiatives that will be shortly starting. And additionally, we're planning on introducing as well a series of expert-led themed webinars, offering a platform for knowledge exchange and sector-specific discussion. With regards to governance, advisory, and funding, our advisory board will hold its first meeting in June, and we're in the process of forming specialist boards across different topics: science, industry, investment policy, and safety. And we've been fortunate to receive the Horizon 2020 Cost Action Grant through Microbial, which is going to support and continue to support and enhance the Microbial Foods Hub broader mission through biomass fermentation. Oops. If we can go back, sorry. So with regards to education and training, so we'll be launching training programs, as Karen mentioned, for PhDs, postdocs, and technical staff to equip them for practical skills, leadership development, and focusing also on the commercialization side of things. And we're planning also to deliver educational workshops for generalist VCs on microbial foods to bridge the gap between knowledge and actually align investment understanding with the scientific opportunity that this field presents. And then finally, with policy, we will continue to engage with the FSA through their Innovation Hub with a focus on enabling regulation around precision fermentation, and will also be contributing to other policy sandbox initiatives. We're also engaged with the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, with Professor Paul Freeman co-chairing the Engineering Biology Steering Committee at DSIT. And then, as we mentioned, we have multiple avenues for collaboration in between the different stakeholders that are interested in the hub. And you can do so if you're interested, first by signing up to the QR code that you can find in the slides, but actually in practice with the different 5 pillars that we have at the center. So research, so you can help us fund, support, and collaborate on research and innovation. Translation, so you can help us accelerate commercialization through funding, through mentorship, and cultivating industry partnerships. You can also engage with the educational aspect of the hubs by training and helping us train future professionals and leaderships via sponsorships, mentorships, and helping with talent development. And then with network, becoming part of our network, signing up to become part of the hub, and building a very strong ecosystem around microbial foods. And then finally with knowledge. So as we mentioned, we'll be sharing expertise, we'll be sharing knowledge across the field, and we need an extensive ecosystem to do this. So if you're a startup, if you're a large organization, if you're a research institute, or if you're an investor, there's avenues for collaboration for you. So please make sure to scan the QR code and sign up to the Microbial Food Hub and join us. So thank you so much, and I look forward to staying in touch with all of you.
Okay, thank you very, very much, everybody. If you could just stop sharing your screen, please, and we can move on to the Q&A session.
I am actually trying, but I think I'm blocked. If someone else can try to share, I will stop sharing automatically.
That's okay. Perhaps we can get started with the first question then. So, question number 1. So, does the panel have any views and recommendations on how we can further streamline the route to market placement of some of these important products, hence supporting innovation in the UK, whilst still retaining proportionate and risk-based authorizations and regulations?
I think that's a big question. I think, Julia, maybe you can explain a bit more about the commercialization pipeline.
Yes, so certainly it's an avenue that we are placing a very big focus on. So currently we're exploring different ways to help the research projects translate from research to commercialization. So that they don't just end up in an academic paper, which they will, but that they're actually translated into industry. Right now we're focusing on 2 main avenues for commercialization. The first one is incubation programs, and we are planning on launching incubation programs that are not cohort based, because we understand the complexity of launching and spinning out and creating IP. So this will be on a case-by-case basis. And as Karen mentioned, for this, we will count with the support of the Seedcorn grant, which will allow us to create an entrepreneur in residence program, and proof of concept grants and different training for entrepreneurs in entrepreneurial curriculums and in basics in entrepreneurship. From that, we also plan, so that will take us, and that will take the spin-outs to around a TRL 3, 4-ish. And then from that, we will pick those up and make sure that we deliver a different kind of training that is much more industry focused and focused on metrics and focused on raising capital. And that will be an acceleration program where we will also count with a very strong VC network and an industry network where we will support with offtake agreements, LOIs, helping in raising funding and so on. So certainly there's a lot of plans in this space. And for us, the key priority is to deliver impact. And for that, we want recurrent conversations with VCs, with industry, throughout the different avenues.
If I may add to the regulatory side of the question as well, of course, through the the accelerator incubation program Julia was mentioning, there's particular training in regulation through the Innovate UK grant that Karen mentioned as well, the NFX network. We're building capabilities to facilitate startup to access the regulatory process, to understand how it works, to navigate it better, to get support throughout the path to authorization and approvals. We want to bring this even earlier in the chain. So we want that PhD students, early career researchers get to know about regulation as early as possible and take into account the challenges that can come later early in the project, so they can pivot if they identify some roadblocks early on in the projects.
Yeah, and if I could just add, this is, I think, one of the prime examples of an area where the 4 hubs are going to work together because it's really a critical challenge that for everyone to understand what are the regulations, make sure they collect the right evidence, and make sure that they can put things together in a timely manner with the things that are needed to make a convincing safety profile case.
Thank you very much. So there are no other questions in at the moment. So perhaps I could ask, could you expand on your plans perhaps for kind of public outreach and kind of specific examples of what you plan to do in that space?
Karen, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can definitely start. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Great Exhibition Road Festival, which I think for Imperial is really a great resource for outreach. So this is taking place on Exhibition Road, which runs right next to us by the Science Museum and the Victoria and Albert Museum. And it's a 2-day event over a weekend in June, and we're going to definitely take advantage of that. And I think our activities will evolve. So right now we're kind of at the research level, and so introducing people similar to what we were talking about today. What are the challenges with the current food system? What opportunities are there? What is alternative protein? What is microbial food? And hopefully, as things evolve and new companies are coming out of the center, out of the hub, we'll be able to have them join us at the stands and talk about what they're doing. And hopefully, maybe someday someone will have an approved product that could be tasted, right? Because a lot of these exhibits at the Exhibition Road Festival are very interactive. So it would be nice for people to be able to both, see and taste the new products that are coming out.
So just and on that note, the festival is next weekend, if I'm correct. So please feel free to come and join and see what we are doing and other people are doing in research and translation and impact. I think it's cool for families as well. So bring along all your people at your household and enjoy the festival.
Great, thanks. So we have another question here. So does the panel have any ideas on whether a similar approach can be used to develop sustainable animal feeds? So I presume that to mean, are you exploring kind of avenues for microbial foods within animal feeds?
That's a good question. And I think most of the technologies we are developing can apply to both, specifically when we talk about some ingredients that are also important for enhanced animal health, but also in the space of like taste and texture. These are important in animal feeding as well. So many of the challenges we're tackling apply directly to both. We of course have the ambition of having an impact in human health and planetary health, and but we do have in mind animal feed, and actually, regulatory speaking, is an easier entry for approvals. And we've seen that the areas like cultivated meat, where approvals are being given to pet food before animal food as well. So definitely a good entry market for many microbial foods.
If I can add as well to that, I mean, for example, just to give you an example, single cell protein, particularly from yeast, is a sort of type of product that is being sort of evaluated from the animal feed industry. For example, extruded type products, like for aquaculture and fish, as fish feed. So this is all sort of single cell proteins that can be produced sort of very economically through using sort of methane or other sort of cheap carbon sources as well. Yeah, that is an area that the technologies can sort of, there is synergy in the type of technologies that we are developing towards the animal feed industry as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So no other questions have come in so far. So I shall ask another one. So if someone did want to get in touch with the hub with further questions or to explore collaboration, what's kind of the best approach to get in touch with you all?
So I think via email is probably the most straightforward. We have the QR code that wasn't on the screen before, but you can find it on our website as well. So microbialfoodhub.ac.uk, I think. And then you can register to our mailing list as well to get updates in events, activities, funding opportunities, collaborations, etc. But if, yeah, that's kind of passive way to get information from us. Follow us in LinkedIn as well. And more actively, if you want to reach out for any particular collaboration or just to get to know more about the specific areas we've discussed, just send us an email and we'll arrange a meeting.
Great, thank you. One of the questions come in now. So what does the panel consider are some of the current main gaps and barriers in order to realize the full potential in microbial foods?
I can start and then the team can complement. I think on one side, well, we have the challenges of getting to a right nutritional profile, texture, taste, producing cheaply as well, working with the feedstock. So all the engineering biology kind of solution we're trying to tackle. On top of that, and I think probably more importantly is like regulation. We mentioned this briefly already. So because this food is need to be approved, so we need to think about that process early on so we don't get stuck later. Scalability and manufacture is another big challenge, and usually where we are okay producing things in the lab, we are kind of okay producing in a small scale by small bioreactors, but when we really need to produce kilograms of a product that a large corporation can test in their pipeline as ingredients, we have difficulty to produce this with the current facilities in the UK, and we see many companies going abroad to do this. So that's an area that we are actively having conversation to see how we can provide solutions as well. So scale up, regulation, and consumer acceptance. So working with consumers, understanding what they need, what they want from a product, what is important for them, and we can make the product that consumers want rather than make products that and then convince consumers to eat them. That's not going to work.
Yeah, and I would just follow up and say, I think on the research front, there are so many levers that you can pull, and it's a big multifactorial optimization problem, and a lot of things are linked. So, you know, the taste, for example, can be affected by how fast the cells are dividing or how quickly they're producing a protein if it's precision fermentation. So, you know, those things are not, you know, independent of each other. And so trying to navigate that space, I think, is really difficult. So that's where the AI will really, I think, come in handy at helping us to try to figure out how to be efficient in our search through this gigantic experimental space.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have another question here. So how do you see the feedstock availability in the years to come? And would you consider moving to second generation feedstock for food production? So leftovers from other industries, for example.
So definitely that's something we are considering already, and we have a whole kind of work package on the scale up using available feedstock that are renewable, that are wasted or byproducts from other industries, generally agriculture, but not only. We have tested some like food waste as well, urban waste, as part of renewable feedstock, but all the way to things like CO2 and products that they can be made from CO2 via electrolysis, for example, methane, methanol, formate as well, like what is called the C1 feedstocks are very interesting as well.
Okay. So I don't see any other questions. So I think I'm happy to draw this to a close. A massive thank you to the Microbial Food Hub team for coming along and sharing all the exciting work taking place across the hub. And of course, thanks to everybody for attending.